The crystal glasses clinked as waiters maneuvered between white-clothed tables at Skyview, Boston's most prestigious restaurant. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city skyline glittered against the twilight sky. At 58 stories up, Skyview wasn't just a restaurant. It was a statement of exclusivity where the city's elite came to be seen. The soft jazz from the live quartet mingled with the murmur of conversations, and the scent of truffle and seared wagyu hung in the air, punctuated by the occasional pop of a champagne cork. Amidst this carefully choreographed dance of luxury, Olivia Reeves stood at the host stand, a jarring contrast to her surroundings. Her faded jeans had seen better days, and her simple cream sweater, while clean, was clearly not designer. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, her face bare of makeup save for a touch of lip balm. The only remarkable thing about her appearance was a weathered leather satchel clutched tightly in her hands. "I'm sorry. There must be some confusion." The hostess, Vanessa, peered down at her tablet, then back at Olivia with thinly veiled disdain. Her fingernails, painted a perfect burgundy, tapped impatiently against the screen. "We don't have a reservation under Reeves, and, as you can see," she gestured to the packed restaurant, "we're fully committed this evening." Olivia's brow furrowed. "That's strange. My husband made the reservation weeks ago. Could you check under James Reeves, perhaps?" The hostess swiped her tablet, her expression making it clear this was a formality. "No James Reeves either. Perhaps you're thinking of a different restaurant? There's a lovely cafe about 6 blocks from here that might be more." Her eyes flicked dismissively over Olivia's attire. Suitable. Behind Olivia, a couple draped in designer clothing approached. The woman's diamond earrings caught the light, sending prisms dancing across the marble floor. "Vanessa, darling." The woman air-kissed the hostess. "So lovely to see you again. Mrs. Harrington." "Mr. Harrington, your table is ready, of course." Vanessa beamed, her entire demeanor transforming instantly. "Follow me, please." As the hostess turned to lead the Harringtons away, Olivia spoke up. "Excuse me, I'm sure the reservation exists. My husband made it specifically because—" "Ma'am," Vanessa cut her off, her smile evaporating. "As I've explained, we have no reservation for anyone named Reeves. We're an exclusive establishment, and even if there were a reservation, we do maintain certain standards." Her gaze flicked meaningfully over Olivia's attire. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of the cafes downtown." From behind the hostess stand, a man in an impeccable suit emerged. "Is there a problem, Vanessa?" "Mr. Reynolds, this woman insists she has a reservation, but there's nothing in the system." The manager's eyes swept over Olivia, making the same split-second assessment Vanessa had. "I see. Ma'am, I'm Martin Reynolds, the general manager. I can assure you we're fully booked tonight. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding about the date." "No misunderstanding. The reservation was confirmed." Olivia's voice remained steady despite the growing audience. "My husband made it for a specific reason. Today is—" "I'm sorry, but I'll have to ask you to leave," Reynolds interrupted, motioning to a security guard. "We have guests waiting." As if on cue, the elevator doors opened, and a group of elegantly dressed patrons stepped out. Reynolds' attention immediately shifted. "Senator Williams, what an honor to have you with us tonight." Olivia stood frozen, clutching her satchel tighter. She glanced at her watch, 7:24. James was running late, but surely he'd arrive soon. The security guard moved closer. "Ma'am," he prompted quietly but firmly. With one last look at her watch, Olivia nodded. "I understand. I'll go." As she turned to leave, a young waiter who had been watching the exchange stepped forward. "Mr. Reynolds, if I may." "Not now." "Eric," Reynolds said sharply. "See to table 12." Olivia stepped into the waiting elevator, her chin held high despite the burning humiliation. The last thing she saw before the doors closed was Eric's troubled expression and the manager's back as he ushered the senator's party to their table. What no one noticed was the leather satchel Olivia carried, or the manuscript inside that would soon turn everything upside down. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Olivia's modest apartment in Cambridge. Sitting at her small kitchen table, she nursed a cup of tea while staring at her phone, her husband's text message glowing on the screen. "I'm so sorry, Liv. Flight got diverted to New York. Tried calling the restaurant. We'll make it up to you. Promise." Their anniversary dinner. ruined. 15 years of marriage, and James had missed one of the most important nights of their lives. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Eric, the waiter from Skyview, standing awkwardly in the hallway. "Mrs. Reeves? I'm sorry to show up unannounced. I'm Eric, from the restaurant last night. How did you find me? I checked the reservation system after you left. Your husband did make a reservation, exactly like you said." He paused. "But that's not the main reason I came." Olivia stepped aside to let him in. The apartment was small but homey. Bookshelves lined the walls, and papers were stacked neatly on a desk in the corner. "Mrs. Reeves, I want to apologize for how you were treated last night." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. "And I found this on the floor after you left." Inside was a photograph of her and James on their wedding day. His broad smile, her radiant face looking up at him. "Thank you," she said softly. "This means a lot to me." "There's something else," Eric continued. "I overheard Mr. Reynolds talking. There's a famous literary agent coming to the restaurant tonight, Victoria Lane." Olivia's breath caught. Victoria Lane, only the most influential literary agent on the East Coast. "When I saw what you dropped, well, I put two and two together. You're James, aren't you?" For 3 years, she'd been writing under that pseudonym, publishing quiet, thoughtful short stories in literary magazines. Few knew her true identity. "Victoria Lane was supposed to meet me at Skyview last night to discuss my novel." She gestured to the leather satchel. "It took me 3 years to write. When they wouldn't let me in." Her voice trailed off. "Victoria Lane is returning to Skyview tonight. I work the dinner shift. What if I could help you get in?" After last night, Reynolds would never allow it. "Not as a guest," Eric clarified. "As staff. We're short a server tonight. You want me to wait tables?" Olivia asked incredulously. "Just long enough to approach Ms. Lane, to explain what happened." Before she could respond, her phone chimed with a text from James. "Coming home today instead of tomorrow. Got something big to tell you. Love you." Olivia looked up at Eric, a slow smile spreading across her face. "What time should I be there?" The staff entrance of Skyview bustled with activity. Olivia, dressed in a borrowed server's uniform, tugged nervously at the bow tie around her neck. "Stop fidgeting," Eric murmured, guiding her through the corridor. "Just keep your head down and follow my lead. And if someone recognizes me from last night, Reynolds never really looked at your face. He was too busy judging your clothes." Eric pushed open a swinging door. "Besides, it's amazing how invisible service staff can be to certain types of people." Eric led Olivia to a service station and began teaching her the basics. "Victoria Lane is at table 16, he whispered, pointing to a corner table where a striking woman with silver-streaked black hair sat alone. As they prepared, Olivia caught snippets of conversation about a tech billionaire arriving tonight. "Eric, you're on section C tonight. Tables 14 through 18, said the head waiter, eyeing Olivia. "Keep the trainee away from the VIP tables." When they finally reached Victoria Lane's table, Olivia's heart hammered in her chest. "Good evening, Ms. Lane," Eric greeted. "May I introduce our new team member, Olivia?" Victoria glanced up, offering a distracted smile. "Good evening." As Eric moved away to place her order, Olivia discreetly placed a small note beside Victoria's water glass. Across the restaurant, the elevator doors opened, and Martin Reynolds hurried forward to greet a man in an impeccable suit. "Mr. Reeves, welcome to Skyview," Reynolds gushed. "We're honored to have you with us tonight." Olivia froze. "Eric, did he just say Reeves?" Eric frowned. "That's James Reeves, the tech entrepreneur." "Wait, is he related to you?" "James Reeves is my husband," Olivia said slowly. "Your husband is the James Reeves, founder of Quantum Networks, the billionaire?" "Billionaire," Olivia echoed, confusion washing over her face. "No, my James works in software sales." Her words died as the man turned, and she found herself staring at her husband's familiar face, in a bespoke suit, with a confident stance, while the entire staff bent toward him like flowers to the sun. When his gaze landed on Olivia, he went completely still, recognition and shock washing over his features. For one eternal moment, husband and wife stared at each other across the crowded restaurant, she in a borrowed server's uniform, he in clothing worth more than their apartment, while the truth hung between them like a suspended crystal about to shatter. In the service corridor, Olivia leaned against the wall, her mind racing. The cool plaster was the only thing that felt real as her world tilted on its axis. James, her James, was apparently not the middle management sales executive he'd claimed to be for their entire marriage. The pieces started falling into place. The frequent business trips, the mysterious phone calls, the way he never seemed concerned about their modest lifestyle. 15 years, she whispered, her voice catching. 15 years of marriage, and I don't even know who my husband is. Eric peered through the porthole window at the dining room. He's watching the door. I think he's going to come looking for you. Panic flared in Olivia's chest. I can't face him. Not here, not like this. You don't have a choice, Eric said gently. The kitchen's the only other exit, and Reynolds is in there with the chef right now. A memory flashed through her mind. James on their honeymoon, wearing worn jeans and a faded t-shirt, laughing as they got caught in a sudden downpour in Costa Rica. Had any of it been real? Olivia straightened her shoulders, determination replacing shock. Victoria Lane. What? I came here for a reason, Olivia said. Before I deal with whatever this is with James, I need to speak with Victoria. Did you see if she read my note? Eric nodded. She did. She kept looking around afterward, like she was searching for someone. Then I'm going to finish what I started. Can you create a distraction if Reynolds comes back out? I just need 2 minutes with her. Eric hesitated, then nodded. Be careful. And Olivia, for what it's worth, I think there's probably a good explanation. There'd better be, she murmured, pushing through the door back into the dining room. The restaurant's elegant symphony felt surreal now, like she was moving through someone else's dream. As Olivia approached Victoria Lane's table, she was acutely aware of James watching her, his expression a complex mixture of concern and pride. Ms. Lane, Olivia said quietly. I'm O.R. James. Victoria's eyes widened, traveling from Olivia's face to her server's uniform. You're the one who left the note. You were supposed to meet me here last night. I tried, Olivia said. They wouldn't let me in. I wasn't dressed appropriately, according to the management. Understanding dawned on Victoria's face, followed by respect. So you snuck in as a server? That's resourceful. I've been working on my novel for 3 years. I wasn't about to let one setback stop me. Olivia's voice gained strength as she spoke about her work, the one true constant in her rapidly shifting reality. A slow smile spread across Victoria's face. That's exactly the kind of determination I look for in my authors. She gestured to the empty chair. Sit down. Tell me about your book. I can't, Olivia said, glancing nervously toward the manager's station. I'm not really supposed to be here. Victoria reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Call my office tomorrow. I want to hear more about this novel of yours and how you managed to infiltrate one of Boston's most exclusive restaurants. Relief washed over Olivia. Thank you. You won't regret it. As she tucked the card into her pocket, a familiar voice spoke from behind her. I believe this belongs to you. Olivia turned to find James standing there, holding her leather satchel, the one containing her manuscript. Up close, she could see the subtle differences in him, the bespoke suit, the confident stance, the expertly trimmed hair. And yet, his eyes were the same ones that had looked into hers across the breakfast table that morning. James, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Victoria looked between them with keen interest. You two know each other? This is my wife, James said simply, his eyes never leaving Olivia's face. Your wife, Victoria echoed, surprise evident in her tone. Martin Reynolds chose that moment to approach, his face contorted with confusion as he looked from James to Olivia in her server's uniform. Mr. Reeves, is everything all right? Is this server bothering you? James fixed Reynolds with a cool stare that Olivia had never seen from him before, the look of a man accustomed to power. This server is my wife, Mr. Reynolds. The same woman you turned away at the door last night. The color drained from Reynolds' face. Your wife? But she... He gestured helplessly at Olivia's appearance. Doesn't look the part. James finished for him. That's rather the point, isn't it? Reynolds' mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Across the restaurant, diners had begun to notice the unfolding drama. A woman at a nearby table lifted her phone discreetly, capturing the scene. I think, James said with deliberate calm, his hand finding the small of Olivia's back, that we should continue this conversation somewhere more private. He turned to Victoria. Ms. Lane, Would you care to join us? I believe you and my wife have business to discuss. As James guided Olivia toward the private dining room, the whispers grew louder behind them. Eric caught Olivia's eye as they passed, giving her a small thumbs up. She managed a weak smile in return, still reeling from the public revelation. Once inside the private dining room, James closed the door, shutting out the curious stares. Olivia stood in the center, suddenly hyper-aware of her ill-fitting uniform and her complete lack of preparation for this moment. I think, she said, breaking the tense silence, that you have some explaining to do. The color drained from Reynolds' face. Your wife? But he gestured helplessly at Olivia's appearance. Doesn't look the part. James finished for him, an edge to his voice that Olivia had rarely heard. That's rather the point, isn't it? Reynolds' mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Across the restaurant, diners had begun to notice the unfolding drama, heads turning, conversations quieting. A woman at a nearby table lifted her phone discreetly, capturing the scene. I think, James said with deliberate calm, his hand finding the small of Olivia's back in a familiar gesture, that we should continue this conversation somewhere more private. He turned to Victoria. Ms. Lane, would you care to join us? I believe you and my wife have business to discuss. As James guided Olivia toward the private dining room, the whispers grew louder behind them. Reynolds followed, ashen-faced, while Victoria trailed behind, her expression suggesting she'd just stumbled upon the most intriguing story of her career. Eric caught Olivia's eye as they passed the service station, giving her a small thumbs up. She managed a weak smile in return, still reeling from the public revelation. Once inside the private dining room, James closed the door, shutting out the curious stares and whispers. Olivia stood in the center of the room, suddenly hyper-aware of her ill-fitting uniform, her simple ponytail, her complete lack of preparation for this moment. I think, she said, breaking the tense silence, that you have some explaining to do. Inside the private dining room, Olivia stood in the center, suddenly hyper-aware of her ill-fitting uniform, her simple ponytail, her complete lack of preparation for this moment. I think, she said, breaking the tense silence, that you have some explaining to do. It wasn't supposed to happen this way, James said. I was coming home tonight to tell you everything. Tell me what exactly? That my husband isn't a software sales executive, that he's apparently... She gestured around the opulent room. All of this. I founded Quantum Networks 8 years ago, James said quietly. Before that, everything I told you was true. But when I developed the security protocol that became the foundation for Quantum, everything changed. 8 years, Olivia repeated. You've been lying to me for 8 years. James shook his head. Not lying. Omitting. Protecting you. From what? Wealth. Success. From everything that comes with it, James said. The scrutiny, the expectations, the sudden friends who only care about your net worth. I watched it happen to my colleagues, how it changed them, their families, their marriages. His eyes pleaded with her to understand. I love our life, Liv. I love that you love me for me, not for my money. Victoria, who had joined them, cleared her throat. If I may, this is remarkably similar to the premise of your novel, Mrs. Reeves. A woman living a double life, hiding her true self from those closest to her. You've read it? Olivia asked. I received the manuscript last week, Victoria confirmed. I was prepared to offer representation last night. James looked stunned. You're O.R. James? The writer of The New Yorker called the quiet voice of a generation. Despite everything, Olivia felt a small thrill. I wanted to see if I could make it on my own merit, not as James Reeves' wife. The irony wasn't lost on either of them, both hiding significant parts of themselves, both afraid of being judged for something other than who they truly were. As they left the restaurant, camera flashes popped like lightning. The sleek Rolls-Royce Phantom waited at the curb, reporters surging forward with questions. Mrs. Reeves, is it true you were working as a server? Mr. Reeves, why the secrecy about your marriage? Are you really the author O.R. James? Olivia paused before the cameras. My name is Olivia Reeves. Some of you know me as O.R. James. Tonight, I was denied service at this restaurant twice. Once as myself, and once as the person they thought I was. Judge for yourselves what that says about how we value people in our society. In the Rolls-Royce, Olivia stared out the window while James watched her, waiting. What I don't understand is why, she finally said. Why live in my small apartment when you could afford all this? James took her hand. Do you remember our third date? That picnic in the public garden. You brought sandwiches from that deli I loved. And you told me about growing up with parents who were always chasing the next promotion, the bigger house, the better car. How you never felt like you had a real home. So you thought I'd reject wealth on principle. I thought you valued simplicity and authenticity. James corrected gently. And you do live. You've been successful under a pseudonym without ever leveraging my connections. You wanted to make it on your own terms. But that was my choice, Olivia emphasized. You didn't give me the same opportunity to choose how I felt about your success. You're right, James admitted. I started with good intentions, wanting to be loved for myself, not my money. But as time passed, the deception grew until I couldn't see a way out. You know what hurts the most? Olivia asked quietly. Not the money or the secrecy, but that you didn't trust me enough to believe I would love you regardless. I've never doubted your love, James said, his voice rough with emotion. Only whether I deserved it. 6 months later, the renovated boathouse on Boston Harbor hummed with activity. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the water, where sailboats drifted in the golden afternoon light. Inside, Edison bulbs hung from exposed beams, casting a warm glow over reclaimed wood tables. A small sign read, Harbor's Edge, where authenticity meets cuisine. Behind the host stand, Eric welcomed guests with the confidence of someone who had found his place in the world. At 26, he was now the owner and head chef of one of Boston's most talked-about new restaurants, a dream made possible by James and Olivia Reeves. Good evening, Ms. Lane. Eric greeted the literary agent as she entered, a copy of Authentic Masks tucked under her arm. Your usual table is ready. Victoria smiled. I see the line is still out the door. You created something special here. I had good teachers, he replied, gesturing to a framed review that highlighted the restaurant's policy of treating every guest with equal respect. In the private dining area, James stood chatting with publishers, his demeanor relaxed in a way that still surprised Olivia sometimes. The rigid separation between his two lives had taken its toll, a burden he hadn't fully recognized until it was lifted. Nearby, a display featured Authentic Masks, now in its 14th week on the bestseller list. Critics had praised its exploration of identity in a world obsessed with appearances. The door opened, and Olivia entered. Gone was the invisible woman in simple clothes, replaced by someone who carried herself with quiet confidence. Her attire was still understated, elegant trousers and a silk blouse, but now it was a choice rather than a disguise. When she reached James, he put his arm around her waist, a gesture both protective and proud. The past 6 months have been a journey of rediscovery, learning to know each other without masks. The Times review just came in, he murmured. They're calling it a searing exploration of identity in an age of carefully curated personas. Olivia smiled. Not bad for a simple woman who got kicked out of a fancy restaurant. The joke had become a private shorthand between them, a reminder of how far they'd come. The past 6 months had brought challenges, adjusting to public scrutiny, navigating their new dynamic as equals, finding balance between the simple life Olivia valued and James's wealth. They'd kept the Cambridge apartment, but renovated it. They divided their time between there and the Cape House, with occasional stays at the Back Bay penthouse. It wasn't always perfect, but it was authentic, and authenticity had become their most cherished value. As dinner was served, Eric emerged to introduce each course. When dessert arrived, he joined them at the table, no longer a server, but a valued friend and partner. To new beginnings, Victoria proposed, raising her glass. And to seeing people for who they truly are, Olivia added, her eyes meeting Martin Reynolds across the table. The former manager of Skyview had undergone his own transformation. After being let go, he'd struggled until Olivia, against all expectations, had reached out. Now he managed outreach for their literacy foundation, bringing books to underserved neighborhoods. I'm still learning, Reynolds acknowledged with newfound humility. But I'm grateful for the second chance. As the evening wound down, Olivia found herself by the windows, looking out at the harbor. James joined her, handing her a cup of tea, a small ritual that had survived all the changes. Penny for your thoughts? He asked. I was just thinking about that night at Skyview. How everything changed in an instant. Do you ever regret it? The publicity, the scrutiny. Sometimes I miss the anonymity, but I don't regret the truth. Living authentically, it's harder in some ways, but so much more fulfilling. James nodded, understanding. The man who had hidden his wealth for fear of being loved for the wrong reasons, and the woman who had created a separate identity to prove her own worth had finally found a way to be wholly themselves, together. Your next book, James said. Have you decided whether to publish under O.R. James or Olivia Reeves? She smiled. Both. O.R. James Reeves. No more hiding parts of myself. Later that night, as their driver held the door of the Rolls-Royce open for them, Olivia reflected on their journey. From a simple woman kicked out of a restaurant to a best-selling author married to a billionaire. Yet the most significant change had nothing to do with status. It was the freedom that came from removing the masks they'd worn for so long. I love you, she said simply, taking his hand. The real you. James squeezed her hand. And I love all of you, Olivia, O.R. James, and everyone in between. In the end, it wasn't about wealth or status. It was about being seen, truly seen, and valued for exactly who you are. Have you ever been misjudged, based on appearances or hidden parts of yourself? Subscribe, like, and share your experiences in the comments below.